Very Advanced Quantum Infinity Training. It's my great pleasure to be with you today. How are you? How are you doing today? I hope you're doing well. I'm a naturopathic doctor and I use the quantum infinity in my practice, and I teach people about the quantum infinity all over the world. People check in for trainings and wanting to know how to use this in the best and most optimal way to heal themselves or to heal others. So I'll take your questions today. I'm happy to take any questions that you have about your quantum infinity. And we're going to get the reflector up here in a minute. I use an app called Mirroring 360, and what that allows me to do is project the app here so that we can look at it together. Okay, hopefully we can get that going. All right, there we go. All right. So we're looking at ourselves here as a group and doing some balancing on ourselves collectively. I also want to talk to you a little bit today, and I'll still take your questions about hololinguistic frequencies and what all of that means. One of the most unique parts of your Quantum Infinity app is that it comes with the ability to create customized categories. And I remembered when this was being developed and added to the program that I was really blown away by how dynamic this made the program. The program is not limited to the developer's vision of what this can be for you. It's only limited to your own vision of how you want to use this program, because you can program in so many things like supplements. You can program in vitamins, minerals, different affirmations. So to that end, I've created, very large number of frequencies over the last 3 years that I've been teaching and training with the Quantum Infinity. So I have, going on 400 different categories of all different things that I want to look at, because when I work with someone, I like to dive deep and I like to really get into the root cause of things. But I'm able to do that because of hololinguistic frequencies. Hololinguistic frequencies, what they are, is we've been able to find technology in order to quantify the frequency of words. Now, I couldn't explain to you how that happens, the exact coding of that technology, but I can tell you that it works, because there are so many things that I've put up as hololinguistic frequencies, and it never ceases to amaze me how spot on these things are that that show up. So what happens with a hololinguistic frequency? So here I've created a digestive assessment where I want to dive deep and I want to test all of the different pieces. I was afraid that wasn't going to work. Let's see if it's, there we go. Phew. Okay. All right, so we can see all the different pieces that I want to know about a person and about what's going on with their digestion. So I'm able to, basically I'm asking each of these things to be revealed, and I'm saying, of all of the puzzle, which is some impairment in digestion, what are the pieces that make up that impairment for this particular person? And so again, I'm able to test that with hololinguistics, but these are simply frequencies that I've programmed in by the power of the word. So I'm just trying to see if I've missed anything. Let's see, enzyme deficiency. Let's do, so what I'm doing here is I'm just adding this through letters. Protease enzyme deficiency. This is just, I just want to add something else. And then I put in 0001 and I hit OK. What am I doing when I create that? I'm taking the letters which have meaning. I'm taking the letters when they're strung together, they have a new meaning. So when P and R and O and T and E and A and S and E are all strung together, they have a different meaning from the letters separate. And that has a resonance. And then when you take words and you string them together as phrases, those have a resonance as well. So protease enzyme deficiency, it has a frequency, it has an energy. And so we're able to quantify that energy or frequency, and then we compare that to other frequencies. And this is the frequency that's been quantified of your of your voice and your picture, and how do these frequencies relate to each other? Is there a chemistry there? Is there a resonance? When there is sort of a disharmony or a stress between the two frequencies, we call that reactivity. And if the number is low or high, then it has a different reactivity, a high level of reactivity, which means when we're looking for a problem, it means that this is an issue. When we're looking for a solution, it means that there will be a high chance of this being effective as a solution. What I really wanted to draw your attention to is the fact that you can take advantage of this. And I want to continue to stretch your mind a little bit about what you possibly could program in as hololinguistic frequencies. I don't know if you guys know of the book by Jo Marchand. Jo Marchand, she's written this book about, it's called Cure, C-U-R-E, which is a word we're very careful not to use very often. And it really is a book all about the power of the placebo. Now, in the book, she's very careful to say that placebo, there's a lot of science behind the effect of the placebo, which is in a double-blind, placebo-based study, some people get the actual medicine, some people don't get the medicine. But in every study, there's a segment of people who do not get the medicine who do experience the effects of the medicine. So they don't take the medicine, but what the medicine was supposed to do, for example, relieve their pain, they get the pain relief. So there's a really wonderful, sort of very grounded discussion of the placebo effect in this book, and she's really looked into the actual science, what the science tells us. Now, there's some really good cautionary information in there. In fact, it's a really good book for biofeedback practitioners to look at. Because in the book, she says that the placebo effect is really, really good for things that are perceived. So the power of belief, right, the energy of belief in your system definitely seems to help people with pain, with their perceived symptoms, with brain chemistry, with feeling better, serotonin, dopamine, all of these things. But it doesn't always change structure. So, for example, there was two sets of people in a study. One received a surgery for their back. The other received a sham surgery. They went through everything that the surgery would have done, the surgery group would have experienced, so they thought they had a surgery, and yet no procedure was done. So they were anesthetized or sham anesthesis, but nothing was done. Anyway, one of the women who was in the sham surgery, not the control, yeah, that would be the control. Would that be the control? Anyway, she was on the side that didn't actually get the real surgery. The next day after the surgery, she remarked about how much better she felt. Within a few days, she was back to playing golf, and really thought that she had actually had the surgery. So anyway, the thing is that she experienced amazing and miraculous effects of not receiving a surgery because she believed the surgery would help her. But it didn't change the actual spinal structure. So there's cautionary things, and we want to be in biofeedback. In order to really feel good about biofeedback, we want to be careful. There's not a lot of studies that show beyond the shadow of a doubt that you can change the structure with your thoughts, but we don't have the science yet that tells us that. My gut and heart tells me that yes, people can change things in a much deeper and more powerful way than we've than we've imagined. So to the extent that the power, what's happening with the placebo effect, it isn't just that it's a goof, it isn't just that nothing's happening. It is what, right, the mind is sending frequency. The mind is actually doing something which is changing the frequency in the body, which is changing the energy, which is yielding the effect. That's really what's happening here. And so that's why with the placebo effect, there's a parallel. So here we're using frequency. We're dialing in the exact frequency that we need in order to get better. So I want to give the cautionary principle here that this is highly experimental. And I said that when I did the Creativity and Miracles webinar. And this is along the lines of the Creativity and Miracles. This is highly experimental. But what I want you to think about is if you could create anything in your body, like if you could just give yourself a total, complete regeneration of your body, what are the pieces that would look like? And then take the pieces apart. So, and I don't know if Dr. Kim is with us today, but this goes back to focus on what Dr. Kim brought to our awareness about really focusing on the positive and the coherent frequencies, which is something I was also talked about in Creativity and Miracles, instead of really running the frequencies of the problem, although those are good to raise our awareness. When we put things into the multi-layer and the balance RX, let's really put things into the multi-layer and the balance RX boxes that are about the solution. So where I'm going with this is, let's just go down to thyroid for a moment. And I have many different, I have a thyroid assessment, I have thyroid solutions. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create Thyroid Solutions 2, which is going to be entirely of this sort of new thinking. So let's say you have an issue with your thyroid. Let's say you have an enlarged thyroid, or if you have a sluggish thyroid, or if it isn't working to complete capacity, or whatever it is, if there's an autoimmune response. I want you to start thinking about what are the different things that you really want that thyroid to do. What do you want it to be? So some examples of this would be, let's go into the category. For example, what if we just ran the frequency of healthy thyroid tissue? Okay, so that's one. What if we just ran that frequency? If you just experienced and absorbed that frequency of healthy thyroid tissue, then if every part of the thyroid was running that healthy frequency, how could any illness or dysfunction be held on to anymore? What if we put here all thyroid? And now this is an opportunity. You guys can send me more ideas for this if you're catching on here, and I'm sure you are. All thyroid cells functioning perfectly. Okay, so what if we run that frequency? Now we're running the frequency of healthy thyroid tissue, all cells running perfectly. If there's even a benign tumor or a cyst, what if we ran the frequency of cyst shrinking, or tumor shrinking, or tumor melting away, or tumor disappearing, or tumor eliminated? In other words, what is it that you want ultimately out of that experience? What is it that you want to even eliminate, even though we're trying to really focus on the positive? This is something to play with. What if we just put in here, now I'm not saying not to take selenium, please understand that, perfect selenium balance. This is one of the most important parts of thyroid function. I find that it's hard for my clients to get enough selenium. It seems to be depleted very, very quickly because it's being used to process toxins a lot of the time. So perfect selenium balance is what I meant to say here. Can't think and talk and write at the same time. Okay, perfect selenium balance or perfect selenium levels. Okay, so this is just, let's just play with this for a minute and look at it. So really, really focusing on using hololinguistics in a new way. Understanding from Joe Marchand's book, The Power of the Placebo means the power of the word to create changes in frequency. It is simply the eliciting, and I want to say more about that, eliciting that change in frequency that really is ultimately what brings change within the body. If it is medicine, the medicine is imbuing to us a frequency when you take the capsule or the liquid. Now, Jo also in her book says that there are other parts of the healing equation. So part of it is how much does the person have the belief that this will work. So people having more of a belief that biofeedback will work. So when you work with people, setting yourself up in a very professional way and presenting yourself in such a way where you have the belief within you and the conviction about biofeedback. Also, the therapeutic relationship between the healer and the client. So express caring and reach out to that person, and that person receives it. I really care about you. I want biofeedback to really change your life in a profound way. That also is creating the change in the field. That is allowing the change of frequency, or allowing the frequency that you're using with the person to be more effective. So in other words, when they had that sham surgery for the woman with the back issue, part of her receiving that frequency that allowed her to elicit the change within herself was also that the doctors were caring, that the nurses were caring, that people were concerned about her, that were all concerned about her healing. She perceived that. That was part of what allowed her to make that change. Now, I would say that even though this is just 206, my guess is that all of these are relevant. This is sort of for us as a collective consciousness today. So let's just say you wanted all of your thyroid cells to be perfect. What if you simply just captured this frequency through hololinguistics and you just run this? So you just run it for 15 minutes, just that frequency alone. Or you could run it in a multi-element phase. Along with either emotions or chakras or solfeggio frequencies. But and then there's a couple of things that are going on simultaneously as you're doing this. You become aware, oh, maybe I'm the one in charge of changing the frequency so that all my thyroid cells can function perfectly. And also you're running that frequency, so you're constantly sort of reinforcing it. Cells functioning perfectly, cells functioning perfectly, cells functioning perfectly. A lot of the healing is the focusing of the energies. You may have been off on some other journey somewhere, not thinking about your thyroid, not attending to it. Now we're changing, we're giving it back the energy that it didn't get for whatever reason. We're really focusing on propping up the energy, giving it the energy. Let's go ahead and stop that. So the cyst shrinking, that was a real draw for us. There may be, you guys, because there's so much iodine deficiency, almost all of us probably have maybe a cyst or a slight goiter or an autoimmune condition going on. This is like so prevalent right now, probably because of Fukushima, combined with the massive electromagnetic frequencies that we're being exposed to on a global level. So cyst shrinking, healthy thyroid tissue. I really like this one. Just the thought that you can just run that frequency for healthy thyroid tissue, healthy thyroid tissue, healthy thyroid tissue, you know, all day long or overnight, and that those constant thoughts, those repetitive thoughts, begin to literally shape and shift that new tissue, lay down new cells and new tissue. Honestly, I don't know. I don't have any studies proving that what I'm saying is true, but I'm telling you that this is very likely the potential reach of biofeedback and hololinguistic frequencies. So we add to that perfect selenium balance. Now, does that mean the person should not pursue working with a nutritionist to take selenium or pursue it in their diet? No, it does not. But it tells us that there is a potential of biofeedback to also add something to that equation, which could be quite powerful. So what are some other things that come to mind for you, which you would like to see? Would it be, healthy DNA? Or what are the things ultimately perfectly structured spine or perfectly aligned spine? What are the things within you that you feel are deficient, that you worry about all day as to their deficiency, or you worry about their incorrect working, you worry about their dysfunction? What are some of the things? And then let's begin to program those as positive hololinguistic frequencies. And this, I believe, will be quite powerful. So it's a new way based on understanding now. Go read Joe Marchand's book about the power of the placebo. Start to understand the true science of the placebo. Well, the placebo is nothing more, nothing less than something that evokes a change in frequency within. So you're eliciting that change in frequency. It's because you believe the therapy will work. You've actually shifted the frequency within yourself. When there is no medicine, that's what's happening. So this isn't exactly the same thing. It's a bit different, but we're using this frequency in a focused way to elicit, to entrain that frequency within. The whole power of energy medicine is based on resonance. Whatever frequency you surround your body with, your cells are listening to that and hearing it, whether it's your own subconscious thoughts, whether it's things that are being spoken to you by the external world, the television that you're exposing it to yourself to, and then the frequencies of the quantum infinity. These change your frequency through resonance, because as you're exposed to the frequency, you are indeed entraining this frequency into your own being. So you want to be very conscious and aware about the frequencies that you're using. Okay, let's get some comments from you guys. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and much love to everyone who's joining us here today. Please, can you tell me exactly the name of the book? The book is called Cure. Let's write that down in the chat section here and answer that in the question area where we want to be here. Okay, Cure, A Journey into the Science of Mind over Body by Joe Marchand. Cure, A Journey, of course it's a long title, into the Science of Mind over Body. Okay, and you can just get that on Amazon, put it onto your Kindle. I just printed out the cross-analysis master list sheet. How do I use it? Okay, we'll get there, Nancy. There's nothing on my screen except audio will begin. Hopefully you were able to jump in and join us. Patricia says she wants to use senescence protection. Okay. Say healthy cells functioning perfectly. The picture is coming onto my iPad, but not my Samsung computer. Okay, I like these little catch-ups along the way. Okay, Nancy, hopefully you're joining us 100% in person, and it's really good to have you with us. The cross-analysis is something, it's a sheet that guides you to everything that's in your cross-analysis database. Okay, so we'll work on some of these ideas for other frequencies that you guys want to look at, but I want you to sort of meditate and think about that. What is it that's really been bothering you, or what is it that's bothering the client? Because there's nothing wrong with creating a customized frequency panel on the fly. So as you're working with someone, there's nothing wrong with creating that as you're working with the person in real time, and that will start to give you ideas about other things to work on, other things to work with. with your clients. So let them be, your guide to some degree, to allow them to expand your thinking. So let's use we'll just use frequency for this as our experimental. I've also used some of this in the Creativity and Miracles. Let's go and let's look at maybe what is under that category. This is a webinar I did a while back, and this is sort of an expansion of that philosophy that we talked about in Creativity and Miracles. It's so weird. Okay, so we'll talk about what some of these frequencies are, and then I'm not sure I'm going to spell this right, but what Patricia said was senescence protection, which is really protection from dementia and decline of cognitive function. Now, I like that senescence protection because it's an umbrella. It's so all-embodying of what that person wants. So that's another really good one. Instead of going through all of the different pieces, you just could work globally with, I just want to be protected from decline. Now that's interesting. When you run that frequency, not only do you begin to change your frequency, but I also believe that resonating at that frequency begins to draw to you new information and people that help you to achieve that desired goal. So for example, when you say, I am wealthy and my bank account is overflowing with lots of, monetary, financial abundance, whatever it is, not only is that affirmation itself part of what creates it, but it becomes a magnet that joins things in the real three-dimensional world, that connects you to things in the real three-dimensional world. So for example, as you're saying that affirmation, your attention is drawn to a book that's about manifesting abundance, or it's drawn to a podcast, or somebody calls you and wants to have lunch with you. That's a great business associate for you to be connected with. So there are many things that are happening multidimensionally. So as you run the frequency of senescence protection, you might be mysteriously drawn to an internet article that tells you about Bacopa, which is one of the greatest things that you can take every day to protect yourself from cognitive decline, an amazing Ayurvedic herb with a tremendous amount of potential to protect the brain from early decline. So there you go, Patricia, it's already started. You're starting to draw those resources to you. Okay. Sandy says, I have 2 clients fighting cysts in the back and degeneration, nerves pushing on the spine, creating excessive pain. Sandy, I don't know if you've just joined us or if you've been here since the beginning, but I want to turn that question back to you. For as much as you've heard so far during our discussion, what types of frequencies, or I can turn it to the everybody who's joining us today. Let me read Sandy's comment again. I have 2 clients fighting, it's an interesting word, fighting. So I have 2 clients fighting cysts in the back and degeneration. And Sandy, that's another thing is, because we talked about in Keys to Resilience last week, on Monday, people who were in that class, really paying attention to the words. And again, we come back to whole linguistic frequencies, we look at the power of the word, but it's so interesting. And Sandy, I don't think this is necessarily a word that I feel like when you said this word fighting, you're almost picking up on the energy that your patients or your clients are experiencing. Like they're really fighting. What is that piece that they're fighting? Are they fighting people around them? Are they fighting circumstances? Are they fighting, obviously they're fighting the fact that they are in pain, that they feel that they're a victim to this particular condition in some way, that they're beholden to it. So, but that really is an interesting word. So I have 2 clients fighting cysts in the back and degeneration, nerves pushing on the spine and creating excessive pain. So nerves pushing on the spine and creating excessive pain. Something that occurs to me is generous space between discs. Now, this is getting to a lot of other things like visualization and paying and just intuition, really, going deep into what's going on with your client. But I think those are all important pieces of this. So I got the feeling as you were in that sentence that there was something like just not enough space, everything is compressed, which happens often. Just in general, when you don't stretch the spine, when you don't do flexion and extension of the spine on a regular basis, the wonderful little jelly containing discs that are the beautiful protection between the vertebra that allow us to have ease of movement, that little wonderful little jelly containing disc starts to become dehydrated. It starts to lose its ability to give us that flexibility. So this is one case where if you don't use it, you lose it. It's one of the reasons why the yogis did pay so much attention to the spine. There are other spiritual reasons as well. So we have to really respect that. But we could also run the frequency, generous space between the discs. This is part of the experience that we want our client to have, is creating more of that space, creating more room. It feels like they feel very contracted at this moment. So that's one of the things. Now, you may have come for some real practical wisdom about the particular condition. We certainly can talk about that as well, Sandy. Let me just make some general comments. Fighting back and degeneration, of course, spinal energy is going to be important. Running the injuries panel is going to be very, very important. Running my inflammation panels would be very, very important as well. They're going to need to do some gentle movement. Castor oil to the back could be really, really good for that. Anytime you don't know what to do, just put castor, the Portlandia episode, put a bird on it, just put castor oil on it, and it almost always gets better. Trying to push forward beyond what is happening in the natural. I guess that is why I said fighting. That is what someone says. Okay, totally understand that. Nerves. I would say one here is nerves functioning perfectly. I almost want to say like de-impingement of nerves. Nerves functioning perfectly. Nerves find free movement. Now, some of these are a little bit on the esoteric, but really what I'm trying to tell you is you can put in whatever seems like it's the right solution for that person. You can reach beyond what we previously thought was possible, right? You can sort of push beyond. I mean, we'd be really hard-pressed to find a supplement that maybe is going to find that the nerves find free movement. But our words can help us to do that instantaneously. So we want to I just want you to sort of look at your client, Sandy, and what is really are wanting in this equation, because they're uncomfortable, they're in pain, they have degeneration. So do they want regeneration? So cysts, back. And again, what I said is I don't necessarily want you to represent to your client that this is going to be the miraculous cure that they need. This is highly experimental, yet creativity and miracles. You may find on the other side of this creative intervention, which is highly experimental, that there's a miracle on the other side of this. So back, cysts, melt away. Isn't that what they really want? They want them to just disappear and be gone. Well, we don't know if we can make that happen, but maybe we can. This is a frequency of back cysts melting away. Is it possible? Maybe. The power of the language, the power of the word. Regenerate The cysts are in the back. I'm trying to remember where the cysts are in the space where the nerve is as well, and that's why they're impinging. I think that's what's happening. Regenerate nerves. What about just back pain relief? So you see how this goes. So you can, there's so many different layers. How about just release emotional attachment to either you could do being in pain, release emotional attachment to presence of cysts. So you may even want to have like a separate piece of paper where you make some notes, because the information may come so quickly to you as you tap into, you can almost just close your eyes for a moment and just say, what is it that this person really, really needs? Okay, maybe they have an emotional issue. Let's just kick out that emotional issue. Clear emotional issue related to back pain. And this is one of the places where you may want to use something that I often don't use, which is, we're going to run those frequencies. You know that when you come out to this place, you have all of your clients here. So this is where you could go under that individual client and create those individual frequencies just for them. And then you can come back and you can look at those frequencies you created. It will also give you insight as to what you were thinking about for them last time, and you can see if any of those frequencies worked. Or you can just keep them in the general area, so that way you can easily apply those frequencies to everyone else that you work on. Remember, you could also export the frequencies in the Quanta capsule, so that would be another thing that you could do. So lots and lots of potential to use this to make a difference. It also just will help you intuitively think more deeply, because we are often limited by what we think is possible. So if you go almost into a shamanistic state, or a state where all things are possible, then you yourself intuitively will receive more insight. So Sandy, as you sit with your client, it's like, what is this all about? What is this all about? This is, oh, wait, I'm getting this feeling back pain is related to, oh, like her mother died. And so you get that feeling as well. So if you maybe draw them out a little bit and you find out that there's a past trauma, clear past trauma, clear past trauma. As you notice, if you've noticed when your client comes in with a certain issue, that there's often always there's like a backstory, or there are things that they keep saying, like they're so frustrated with their husband because, and so clear frustration with husband, or clear resentment of husband. All these things are related to the issue, but with hololinguistics, you can take that whole narrative and incorporate it into what you're doing, where sometimes it's just the narrative that we have running on the side, and we're like, oh, what do we do? What do we do? What's nutritional supplement do we use? Whereas if we take all of that in and sort of harmonize it, it could have a really profound effect. All right. What about not feeling supported in the world, emotional based? Yeah, there's a whole book on that. I'll see if I can find that book. There's a book that we read in Naturopathic College that is literally an entire book about how emotional pain is related to not feeling supported in the world. And certainly that's a Louise Hay idea as well. That's really, really good. But what I want you to do, Sandy, is I want you to flip it around, and I want you to come up with the words that are like the nectar, or the, like the most beautiful remedy or salve for that feeling of feeling unsupported. So one take on this could be infinite, inflation, infinite, most loving and supportive energy. I'm just, this is just one version of that. Infinite, most loving and supportive energy, because at the sort of the core level, isn't that what that person really needs? It's like, if something could just swoop in and give that person the energy that they really, really need, wouldn't that be awesome? It sort of reminds me of, in Portland, we have these cuddle shops. And it sounds crazy, but it's a place where you can go and you can have someone cuddle you. It's not sexual at all. It's completely platonic. It's really Portland. And you can just have someone just give you a hug and give you supportive touch for 30 minutes or something. And isn't that amazing? I mean, talk about, things that people need most that might, eradicate their pain, is just supportive touch, is just almost, if you could, like, you know, uh, call your mom, and just have your mom come over and just like give you this big, assuming that your mother embodied all of those energies, which sometimes they don't, but you almost could have the infinite, like the ultimate sort of, mom is sort of like an archetypal thing that we're looking for, which is this just the energy of unconditional love and compassion. And if we could sort of have that manifest in that moment, where that energy of unconditional love and compassion could sort of just hug you, envelop you for those moments where you feel completely acknowledged, recognized, and everything in that moment, boy, that would be incredible, at just relieving your pain, your suffering, your anxiety in the moment. Well, maybe we can't give exactly that, although your presence to some degree does bring that into your client's life. Maybe you can replicate that to some degree in frequency. So I really want you to stretch yourself. What is it that that client is really looking for at the most core level? And this will help you to create some of the most powerful hololinguistic frequencies, like infinite, most loving and supportive energy. Maybe if you just ran infinite, most loving and supportive energy for 10 minutes or even for 3 minutes for your client, then that, might change the whole dynamic. And also, because you're in the morphogenic field with your client, you also holding and thinking about that energy for them, even having compassion for them because it's something that they didn't get, will actually be very, very powerful. That's how change is created in the client healer relationship, right? It's like you even just listening to their story and being really present for their story. The moment that they feel that you understand their pain, there's a profound shift that happens. And I believe that that's part of the placebo effect as well. So Sandy, just one thing for you in particular, because you're so passionate and so motivated to help people, is to remember that in those moments when you may think that you can't find the right remedy or the right solution, is to know that probably 70% of the healing that you bring to that person is just your sincere desire to heal and their ability to feel your desire to help them. Okay, so interesting that the frequency that comes up is the generous space between the discs. So that we know that that's something that can profoundly help them. And as Patricia said to you, Sandy, she said, can your client hang upside down? And an inversion board or a slant board definitely is one of the best things. We've talked about this before. There are these cushion slant boards that are not very well known. I think they've just never been marketed very well, which is unfortunate. And I'm going to see if I can find them for you. But if you go back to our discussion a few weeks back, is we talked about Bernard Jensen, and every time that he worked with someone on colon health or their condition, he would say, if you're not using a slant board every day, I can't help you. You have to go use the slant board daily. Let's see if we can just find it. So anyway, so either an inversion table or a slant board would be really, really helpful for your client. That's going to create the space. So let's just look at this for a moment in the main screen viewing. Hang on one second. Okay, so just look at this for a moment. And So this is an example of an inversion table, but not everybody can do this. And so, but they could do this. Can you lie down? Yeah, I can lie down. Can you lie down on, you know, so this is one of these. One's called the Einstein, the other one is called the Newton. And these are not inexpensive. They're actually a few $100s, but let me tell you, worth every penny. So I have one, I'm on it, and I'm always amazed at how refreshed I feel after being on there for just 10 minutes. So, so this would help to create the space between the discs as well as running this frequency for them. Interesting that got the GMO frequency here. We'll talk about that some other time. So where was that one that I was looking for? The infinite and most loving. All right, so came up with some resonance. So infinite most loving energy. So wouldn't that be wonderful to run that in a multi-element phase, having that on one end and having these other things on the other. So that's, you know, one idea. Nerves. This one is nerves, find free movement. So you could put that down here, etc. and so forth. Regenerate nerves had some resonance. So you can do that. So this, you know, this is really fun for a healer too, because it taps into the possibilities rather than tapping into the limitations. So instead of, you know, I mean, part of my anxiety, you know, with patients over the years is like, oh my God, will I know, you know, will I know what's going on with them? Will I be able to, oh, will I find the right remedy? Will I pick the right remedy? In a way, this is so holistic because it allows you to dive deeply into the possibility. And it also invites you into a space instead of, you know, you're going through the whole materia medica of all the solutions, you're actually being very much more personalized with what they really need and really thinking more into their core issues. So I think we really do need a course on this. So I'm going to perfect this explanation a bit and then offer probably a 1 or 2, maybe a 4 class discussion and exploration with you, because this is one of the ways to become an extremely dynamic and really effective biofeedback practitioner, but also someone who's highly valued by the client that you're working with. Because as you do this, as you sort of develop this unique process for them, they are going to feel understood on a level that they may have never been understood or heard before. And that also triggers a profound healing within them. That's why people are so obsessed with, I want to have the diagnosis, I want to know what this is. They want to be understood and recognized. You could see part of the reason why modern medicine has been so ineffective. It isn't just sort of the failings of the medicine itself, but is the failing of the system. When your doctor won't, you know, hardly listens to what you say, you know, you feel like you're part of the cattle call in a big, you know, room of offices where you're listened to for just a few minutes. Doctor doesn't know you personally. All of those things detract from that healing experience. So whenever you think you may not have enough knowledge, that's really not what the issue is. You know, there's so much that can be known through the heart. So back to our discussion of the heart. So much that can be known through the heart that cannot be known through the mind. Like, it's really interesting when we get into belief, non-belief. What is the proof for this? What is the science? And we know that even though I'm talking about the placebo effect in Joe's book, which is about scientific studies about the placebo, remember that science and scientific studies can be manipulated. There's only so much that we can achieve through knowledge. Whereas when we go into our heart, which is the compassion we have to heal other people, and our intuition, we actually can know things that physicists don't currently know, or the medical profession doesn't currently know. Why? Because we're going deep into the well of infinite wisdom. And this is why even if you see something where someone is telling you that it's true, and there are 100 scientific studies to back it up, when you dive deep into your heart, you say, you know what? Or you say, in my gut, this just doesn't feel true. Or I just can't, this just, when I look at this, this doesn't all add up. Like a really extreme example of this would be back when cigarette smoking was much more commonplace, and there were 100 doctors lining up to say that cigarette smoking was beneficial and it could improve your life in some way. And I think most people, when they were able to tap into their hearts, were like, gosh, that just doesn't add up. So that's sort of an extreme example. All right, let's take some of your other comments, questions here. Relax spine discs is one that Patricia says. How much does cuddling cost? Run compassionate cuddling. Cuddling is good. And Jordana, thank you. She says, what a profoundly inspirational use of the QI. Thank you so much. That's really kind of you. And your comment also lets me know that you have that you sort of got it. So I really appreciate that. You really got it. And I think a lot of other people who are on here really get it too. So yeah, you guys, how about real cuddling, whether it's with your spouse, partner, friend, your pet, your companion pet, your dogs are good at spooning and cuddling too. So, but the energy of cuddling, I mean, that probably could heal the whole universe, right? Probably when some world leader is on an aggressive, power-hungry binge, if only they could be cuddled at that moment, you probably could diffuse some of their frustration, whatever they're experiencing there. So, but it lets you think, again, this whole process allows you to lean in and really think about when ultimately that person is coming in. And as Sandy said, they're fighting. They're really fighting for that relief of pain, and they're in so much frustration. But what is really the underlying piece there for them? And this process of diving into these sort of solution-based whole linguistic frequencies, in order for you to elicit what that narrative is going to be for them, what that series of frequencies is going to be for them, you need to gain a better understanding of them. And as you hear more about what's going on and you hear more of the language that they're using and how you can use that for the whole linguistic frequencies, you're probably going to stumble right on what the heart of the issue is for them. And when you find that issue, you can run, where were we here on our creativity and miracles? Let's see. Comforting. I wish it was easier to write all of this. Comforting, compassionate. What I'm going to write here is comforting, compassionate, cuddling energy. So this is just a silly one, right? Or maybe not, who knows? Comforting, compassionate, cuddling energy. I mean, it sounds great, right? So there you go. So what if you just sneak that frequency into your session? What's going to happen there? So you can play around with that. And Rebecca says, thank you for this amazing Q&A. That is exactly, absolutely how I perceive biofeedback. So Rebecca's on the same page. You guys are out there, you're leading, you're on the leading edge, you're pioneers in this field. So it's no accident, sort of that we're all coming up to this at the same time. This is something we're all sort of thinking about. Oh, I wonder if this would be possible. Yes, it's possible, and we're getting more and more substantial of that. That's why that book is really good, because it gives you more insight as to actually what's out there in the field overall, really talking about the power of the placebo, which is the power of the mind, but it's the power of the mind to shift frequency within the body. So that's the important connection to biofeedback. How is it different? How is it the same? Every time a person, if it's yourself and you're using your biofeedback, then you are very engaged in the process as well. So you are having that focused thought process as well. You're very much like, oh, now I'm going to be running comforting, compassionate, cuddling energy. And so but you're thinking about that. I'm going to be running the energy of healthy tissue. Your thought is also, an intention is also now running simultaneously with those whole linguistic frequencies. So it's good to whatever extent that you can invite that person in, if that's the place that they're at, invite them into the process. It's really great for them. Okay, so Sandy says, excellent info. I'm getting ready to have the client show up, and I appreciate you helping me build the panel before she arrives. Both clients have gone to doctors and they say surgery, but they have faith to overcome the negative report. So thank you, and thank you, class friends. Thank you, everybody who's given suggestions. You know, one of the most interesting things I heard in naturopathic school, Sandy, and if you need to jump off the line, that's okay, is that the people in, this is in naturopathic medical school. So I attended a 4-year medical college, a naturopathic medical college in Portland. And so we had to do a lot of clinical rotations and, you know, learning about what all medical doctors learn about. Anyway, so one of our doctors, when we were studying orthopedics, which is all about the health of the back, and we do some chiropractic study as well, he said that the number one people who do not want to get back surgery are the people who do back surgery. So when you have orthopedic surgeons, the one thing that they're well aware of is they do not want to have back surgery. Because of all of the complications of back surgery and because of the tendency, interestingly enough, for it to not be the ultimate resolution and to lead to lots of other more serious side effects and complications. And certainly I had an uncle who definitely experienced this and regrets having that. And we know a myriad of stories, many published anecdotal stories of, you know, people who became healers afterwards because they were told to have back surgery and they were like, well, I wonder if I go to this yoga class, I mean, hey, what the heck, what if I try this yoga thing? All of a sudden they were healed. Or, you know what, I wonder if I went into this chiropractor's office and they were healed. So I can't say what to do. This is up to your client and their, you know, doctor and best assessment and all of those things. But yes, they may want to extend out the period a bit longer. And your quantum infinity can also be, you know, help of the discovery process of maybe what is the best therapeutic for them. So, you know, keep searching and keep doing your good works, Sandy. So we're going to continue this conversation. I'm going to create a class for this. We did Creativity and Miracles almost 2 years ago now, and it's really time to sort of, you know, bring that up. Is really the power of hololinguistic frequencies to heal, but they also transport you to a new place as a healer. So we have just a couple of minutes left today. Are there any other questions? Also, I'd love any other topics. I'm going to be creating a course soon on sleep, how important sleep is, what happens when you don't have sleep, and also how to really help people to create a better cortisol rhythm, to create better sleep. We're going to be talking all about that. But what are the other topics that would help you in particular? I would love to hear that from you. That's going to help me in my course development. I think I'll probably send out a survey on that this week. But if you have any topics that you're interested in, Janet says sleep apnea. That's a good one to incorporate into the sleep. And that gets into talking about the health of the jaw. You guys, I can't tell you how important it is to have your jaw properly aligned. If your jaw is out of alignment, if you grind at night, you're creating a sympathetic state virtually 24 hours a day. So we definitely want to help you with that. And the grinding is connected to sleep apnea. And sleep apnea is also a product of food allergies. And that also is very problematic. When people don't have good sleep, it just affects every other part of your body. It can cause a veritable breakdown in your metabolism and so many other things, your cognitive function, and on and on and on. So I will be joining you next week for advanced training. Join me on Tuesdays for Healers Roundtable. I want to wish you all lots of cuddling energy, infinite, compassionate cuddling energy. I want to wish you a wonderful weekend, lots of abundance and prosperity coming into your life, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care, everyone, and be well. See you next week. Bye-bye for now. Thanks, and thanks, you guys. Keep writing your suggestions below. I'm getting some good suggestions here. Hang on the line for a couple more minutes. Thanks, you guys.